to order the October meeting of the Kingston Public Library Board of Trustees. It is 6:01. In attendance, I'm just going to have us go around the room. Emily Curtin,
Jen Quackenbush,
Matt Donahue,
Lee Lewis,
Donald Cologne,
Parker Yarositis.
thank you. A change in the agenda order. We have no minutes for approval tonight. Next month, we will approve last month's minutes and this month's minutes before we move on. And we're going to bump up a part of positions updates, and I'm going to give Director Cologne the floor.
Okay, excellent. So as you know, we've been going through some staff changes. So I just wanted to introduce our new teen and emerging technology librarian, Parker Yarositis. Parker comes to us from a couple of different libraries, both the Pembroke Public Library and the Duxbury Library. So very familiar with OCLN practices, and is a recent graduate of Simmons College and University, and we are thrilled to have him on staff.
I'm excited to be here as well. So I've already begun to kind of get settled. One of the big things I really want to get started on as soon as I can right now is planning outreach, so I can begin to form those connections with the teams. Already I have planned for November a day where I'm going to go to the high school and meet them while they're all kind of like cycling through their lunches, bring in a few things, like a little pamphlet just to let them know what we can do, some library card signups that they can bring in and sign up for a library card with. I'm also beginning to work on just kind of managing the collection a little bit and shifting things around. One of my big goals was to give the graphic novels and the manga more space than they currently have, since it was very difficult to get anything on the shelf. We actually Donald just moved a low shelf from over here in there. And I'm hoping to ultimately switch where they are with the tween books. So kind of all the teen books are grouped in the same area, all the tween books are together. I've also begun to kind of work on the beginnings of programming. That, however, one of the things that I'm putting in a pamphlet that I'm bringing to school is just kind of a brief survey of what teens want, programming wise, materials wise, and tech wise, so I can get a little bit of feedback from them. I've also looked through a calendar of like what was run previously to try to compare things that have been successful in the past with my skill set right now, and what in the future ultimately I hope to be able to provide for them. Do you guys have any questions?
My question was about if they had reached out, the high school librarian and the middle school librarian, because I know they're very excited.
Yeah, I've already met the high school librarian a couple times. She's the one who's been communicating with my outreach. She actually came this weekend briefly, and we chatted, and I've had a bunch of discards to like give her. And she's been my primary contact. I have to double check with the middle school librarian, since I reached out to her, haven't heard back, and I figured, oh, okay, give her.
It's her first year.
So it's her first year. Yeah. So I'm gonna try to touch base again this week and just make sure I didn't get buried under a pile of emails.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Oh, we're happy to have you.
Likewise, I'm excited
Welcome.
to be here. Yeah.
I kind of like to focus on the manga that seems a little more tailored toward that interest.
Yeah, definitely. My undergraduate degree was also in pretty much comics, so they have a special place in my heart as well. And just I know how much teens really do enjoy manga and graphic novels, and they'll come in checking out that giant stack. So I'm excited to get that that collection the love it deserves.
Is there any plan to like communicate that to students?
Yeah, one of the things that I actually plan is a graphic novel book club, because again, I love talking about graphic novels and comics, and I want to give them the opportunity to talk about it, especially since it's still something that schools are kind of growing into
Villainizing.
as like another thing thing that you can talk about because, you know, so that's one way that I also want to like advertise that like, yeah, this is a big focus. This is something that I know that I love and I know that you guys love. So promoting it. Ultimately, I hope also that the graphic novel book club, I've been beginning to try to start the seeds for a teen advisory board since I know we previously had one. And again, I think that's a fantastic way not only to get teens involved with the library, just but as a community as a whole, understanding that like they can have an impact on things around them. So I'm hoping once kind of get the graphic novel book club off the ground, maybe be able to get some teens who are super like involved and interested in that, beginning to pick titles and have like a little question bank prepared, and give it more, or not give it entirely, but work hand in hand with them to support their needs and interests, if that isn't too long-winded.
But better aligned, kind of like what they.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's something very important to me. I don't just want to be making assumptions.
Speaking as a working middle school librarian right now, I second that thumbs up 100%. I know for us, manga and graphic novels are definitely our big draw. So
Yeah.
I think having someone with their finger on the pulse of things running that here is really special.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Not seeing any, as I said, you're not obligated to stay and watch the inner workings. Nice as well, thank you.
Just see you around.
Take care.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
It's just one fire to the next at work.
The next part or the next item on the agenda is the director evaluation submission. As you know, we completed this a couple of months ago, but this is just a public reminder of how it works. In the beginning of the process every year when we do the director evaluation, Director Cologne fills out a self-evaluation. We have access to that, but then each of us are responsible for our own evaluation of Director Cologne. I compile all of our individual evaluations and create a single document that is then presented as the result of all of our work. We are both going to sign that document today because a copy of it will go to the townhouse. So, all very official. Just do it. Even with my glasses on.
I'm just
We have
gonna
multiple
draw
copies of it.
arrows.
I'm pretty
Now I must become the director of the library. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then if we don't remember, Donald had a glowing review. All right, tutor policy vote. So last month we discussed the tutor policy and really we found that we were happy with it. That we didn't have any corrections or adjustments to what's printed here, but we do have to revisit our policies every so often just to make sure that they're up to date and effective. So given that we didn't find anything, and I'm assuming in the time between then and now, there haven't been any suggested edits or changes. Okay, so not seeing any, I would take a motion to, I think we just have to say that we reviewed it, a review date of, review and acceptance date of October 20th. Because the policy is going to continue as printed.
I feel bold. I'll make the motion.
All right.
I move to accept the existing policy on tutors as written with no changes with a review date of October 20th, 2025.
I will be so bold as to second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing anything.
It's a shame because I would like to allow some light solicitation, but I guess.
So then we have,
Really?
Yeah.
our policy on solicitations discussion, and this is a wee bit more problematic than the tutor policy, because Donald
This may-
noting that some of the language no longer works. So Donald, I don't know if you want to introduce why we've decided to look at this next and.
So, so the reason why I put it forward was, we've had increase from a couple of different organizations looking to be able to solicit for, various things. One being, for example, we had a future Girl Scout troop asked about being able to do a bake sale at the entrance of the library. And then we also had another community organization, a town group that wanted to, do make requests like solicitations for purchases of items and things like that as part of a fundraising that. So looking at the policy, then looking at the policy referring to another policy, which is the policy on posting and distribution of non-library materials, there's conflict in the language. In one policy, it's like, yes, you can do this. In another policy, it says, no, you can't post anything on our bulletin board. That's fundraising. So basically, this will address we're kind of looking at both policies at once, as far as getting both cohesion, between the two. So whether or not having a group come in and want to, like, as I said, Girl Scouts doing bake sale outside, but not necessarily having a flyer on our bulletin board, which is what the other policy would refer to. So it's just trying to find cohesion between the two. Also, there's mentioned about commercial activities for other organizations may take place within the meeting room only if they are consistent with the board's meeting room policy. Well, we no longer have a meeting room. It is now the teen room.
And
So
has
that would
been
then,
since 2019.
yeah, and that would have to then default to being the Adams Center, which then that would default to the Adams Center building use policy, which I am pretty sure that that sort of commercial activity would not be allowed based upon that policy. So this is going to be a deeper dive than the tutoring one. So, we presented these, I will, have edits to, and recommendations. Obviously, I'll take a deeper dive as to, what the building use policy for the Adams Center says and where we can kind of line these up. And it can be further discussion and a vote at the next meeting. But if not, it can just be further discussion at the next meeting and carry over the vote to another meeting if there's more, involved with it.
So for me, I guess my question is, what are commercial activities and fundraising activities? Like, I guess I need examples of, because I don't feel like we have many of those going on
Yeah, like,
currently nor have we.
and
So-
honestly, like the Girl Scout example in my mind, doesn't register as a commercial
Right.
thing. Like, is it? And that's not a rhetorical question.
I think of it as a volunteer organization, so it's not, I just don't think.
Right, but it's so definitely.
Right,
Difference between for lack of a better word, a corporation and like a nonprofit.
right.
Like, well, that's the distinction in my brain. It's like, I wouldn't consider that commercial if it's a nonprofit. Dan, maybe you could fill us in on that.
Oh, is it just return?
Yeah, we have foundation members here.
Oh.
I think it's book bag pickup.
So I don't know. Like, we're trying to figure out, like, we need different language. Commercial activities and fundraising activities, I don't think.
Or like.
Correct.
Accurate. Yeah.
And I
Any
think,
activity that is for, like, is everything that has happened or been asked to happen in recent memory related to things like the Girl Scouts that are nonprofits, or are there like businesses seeking to do some kind of, like, I can't think of how, when I think commercial, I think business.
I think
exactly.
like a pampered chef party in the Adams Center.
Right,
Yeah.
Profit.
correct. And I think that might be something that needs to specifically be listed in there is in regards to, nonprofit.
So I wonder if before the next month's meeting, we start looking at, and I won't say I can look at them, at the policy on solicitations that other libraries have and see what they're using for their language to identify the groups.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the sticking point. Right.
possible. If there's a good reason not to do that, you know,
I sort of wonder relatedly, and this could be me trying to put scotch tape on a hole in the side of the boat here, but looking specifically at the posting and distribution of non-library materials policy, where the other things that, you know, are, and I quote, not to be considered for posting, I would assume are not like hot button items the same way this commercial and business advertising portion is. I wonder if it would come to that, if we could create a separate little cutout, like that part is discretionary and the rest of this, whatever we decide that might be, is still off limits, if it came to that. It made more sense in my head.
So no,
But
no, so you're talking about the specificity of the
so
bulleted
yeah,
list.
You're saying for the posting and distribution to list what is permitted versus what is not.
or what is permitted with the discretion of either the board or the director or some
Right.
combination thereof.
Yeah,
But I think that would probably be dependent, whatever that looked like, on any changes we may or may not make to policy on solicitations soon.
be worried about being accused of favoritism, discretionary, which
That's
still might be fine. Good luck, if everything is approved with like a valid reason, good luck trying to establish discrimination.
I think that it would probably be best to keep it well-defined and not
Yes.
have it discretionary.
Right. It wasn't the wording I was like,
Right.
I would pay for.
Yeah.
Right, no, it's not like, well, like, it would be, you know, like, even terminology of like with trustee approval, you know, that, you know,
Yeah, I
it,
think-
it could open the door that if there's an organization that there is any type of bias that one way or the other, or, you know, any type of animosity, what have you, with, okay, you let the, you know, such and such group meet once, and but now you don't know who the president of that group is now, so you're not going to let them do it. Whereas if it was just clearly defined,
Yeah.
then that's the system, and that would be, I think, give us better, you know, guidelines.
I mean, I'll say my favorite part of both of these policies is the specificity
Very
in the
specific.
bulleted list.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't leave a lot of room for interpretation or like, oh, no, wiggle room where I think I can get
Yeah.
into this.
No.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
we both need it, like, it is for this purpose, it is not for these.
Yes.
And if something were to emerge that doesn't fall in the yay or the nay, then it requires board conversation and approval or something,
Yeah.
like.
Absolutely.
But if
Yeah.
we can try to be as defined as possible, so like, if you're one of these things, it's a yes, if you're one of these, it's a no. And if you're some mysterious other thing, then we'll have to look at it fresh.
That's actually, looking at the first thing that like stuck out of my brain was, there's still a whole lot of politics that isn't candidate for ballot measure, talking about like, you know, stances on like guns, abortion, like controversial issues that you let someone in, and then someone who's vehemently opposed on the other side comes and says, hey, what are you doing with political organizing in the library?
What I wonder about that.
I wonder if you could put
because
candidate/issue
I
or make sure the language.
Candidate, issue, or ballot.
Yeah.
measure.
I would
Or
want-
maybe just candidate or issue, because I think issue covers ballot measure.
I'm
I
not,
think if we better define what it is for also, like, it seems like that board is really for like community gathering
So I-
events,
I
so.
I understand the
Sure.
sentiment. I'm worried we might lock ourselves into a very narrow window if we stop defining what can't go on and start defining.
Oh, I
what
need to
can.
do both.
Well, but then what's that gray area where it's neither disallowed nor mentioned? Like, is that allowed or no? And
do we,
I think we need to come to like a consensus, well, maybe not consensus, but I guess somewhat general agreement that we are either going to exclude behaviors or we're only going to include behaviors.
I almost wonder, do we even have the latitude legally, if we were hypothetically to do that kind of thing, would we even have the latitude to put political issues as a prescribed thing on that list? It's one thing where it's out and out political activity, like supporting or opposing a given candidate, supporting or opposing a ballot measure, that kind of thing. But if it's something more nebulous, like a group in support of this cause or a group that opposes that cause, if it's not tied to specific political activity, I'm not sure we would even necessarily have a legal leg to stand on if we were to prescribe that kind of thing.
But I feel more comfortable with issue in the, listed in the language in that regard. I mean, I don't think, no one's ever, as far as I know, asked to post political in any way piece of material inside the library, because I think people understand that it's not the type of space for that sort of thing.
Maybe, I mean, I just, you know, any hypothetical we can come up with could theoretically become true down the line. There's never any
Yeah.
way to know.
I think we're living in post law right now, so.
So maybe not, I mean, maybe we leave it and just fingers crossed that no one comes to post about a political issue.
Well, the issue don't cover us. The problem is.
Even if they want to meet to have us define issue to them, it's something.
Materials in support or opposition to any specific religious conviction. Like, it would seem like it would follow then that you also couldn't have materials of support or opposition of any specific
Political conviction.
Like, it feels like the same idea. Otherwise, you know, you could theoretically, like, even on like an issue like abortion, you'd say, well, it's political, but it's also religious. It's, you know, like, it feels like at that point you start splitting hairs. It almost seems like it's more in the spirit of this to say, like, it's not supposed to be about partisan things.
Just out of curiosity, what's on the board right now?
Well, it's basically community events. So the upcoming Bone Marrow Drive. I think there's, as I'm not the one who puts the stuff on there, my head is going blank at this.
And I know it changes. So
Yeah, it changed. So any kind of community thing we've had, you know, the conservation department, when they were, you know, promoting some, you know, services and things like that, they had put up. So there's a lot of town information on there. There's also like community theater has put stuff up there. Things pertaining to the school, any school events and stuff like that. That has also gone up there.
Yeah, I think, again, it's just a language issue.
I just worry because I'm an anxious person by nature about us getting sued for something like that.
Ooh.
And some of it too, as part of like, why we say it's like, you know, politics in general, let's say it's perfectly fine and legal, and yet someone gets their bee in a bonnet about it. You know, baseless lawsuits are still expensive.
Absolutely.
So are we in agreement then, maybe if I look at some policy on solicitations, just of other libraries to see when they. And then maybe it will help us, guide us to marry these two policies more clearly. And then I suppose we have to factor in that.
Oh, I see.
Did a good job with when we did the Adams Center usage too. It feels like that overlaps here, that there might be language from that one that we looked at. Was that this summer or last summer? To be able to be consistent with.
So that it all makes sense. So that this doesn't happen
Well,
again.
that's exactly it. There needs to be consistency in the policies. Because obviously we have two policies that are conflicting.
Right.
Right. It seems like the same type of organization that would be allowed to use the Adams Center, which I think we kind of designated, would be the same type that would be able to do something here in the minimal space available.
I wonder if it would be worth, in the course of review, specifically looking at other libraries that own more than one property, or maybe have more than one facility in their like
Arsenal of buildings.
Yeah. Repertoire. I like that one. That's an AP US history.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that I would imagine that any efforts we take to ensure our policies and availability are consistent between buildings would be similar in nature to whatever those libraries or library systems have done.
I can look and see, add it to my.
My worry there though is that, you know, if we're looking at libraries in general, they got a lot of libraries with a lot of ideas and people select the best ones. And that's, you know, a great thing about being a human. Like, you don't need to come up with original ideas. You select the best ideas from what you. But how many libraries actually have a comparable? Maybe 2 or 3. That
Yeah, I don't
get
think
access to. Be worried that like whatever language they have might not be as finely tuned as a general library language. So I'm not saying we don't do that, but maybe we put that under a microscope a little more. General library.
I think also we'd have to take into consideration if it's a library that happens to have more than one building in its physical plant, it probably has the personnel to staff both buildings in a way that we don't have here,
Right.
even though we have the two buildings.
That's true.
So
Do we
whatever they
even
set up
have
to
someone
do.
staffed?
Yes, so Nick is in the Adams Center, but it's not like he's there to have patrons come through.
Right.
I mean, they can make an appointment. He's really there
It's
in the
more like his
archives. Yeah.
You know, he's building secretary.
Yes. All right, so then we can continue the discussion next month, so we have some idea about language.
Can I ask
Yeah.
why is the Adams Center restricted?
Because of so from my understanding is that because there had been a court decision made about the use, it had to do with the deed. And so my understanding was that when the library moved over here, the town utilized the space for renting it out for, as a hall or what have you, sort of
Weddings.
thing. Exactly. So there were social events and things like that. And I'm not exactly sure what spearheaded the court challenge, but evidently the way the deed is written is that the building is to be used for the benefit of the library. So with that said, the order said you can have town offices over there for, I think it was up to 2 years or something, but then they had to go and then basically it'd be used by the library and as a meeting space and what have you. Add the layer of it being on the National Historic Register, that brings up more challenges of, because the question, because there are comments that I hear in the community about the lack of use of the space, but at the same time, if this was a heavily used building like the library, open, 51 hours a week, there isn't funding to maintain it as is due to the fact of the historical restrictions on it. So when Nick has done the archives, that basically was laying the foundation of showing the use of that collection and what was available to the community so that when we reach the point that we can go to town meeting and say, hey, we need extra staffing so that we can offer more over there. Because having an individual staffed in an offsite building is both a safety and security challenge. Short of me going over there visiting or, him, checking in with me, he could fallen down the set of stairs and I wouldn't know it, for example. So the community members who do use the collection do make appointments with him. But like in recent times with staffing issues, he's pulled to come over here to cover the reference desk or cover CERC. So there isn't a good way to, at this point, to have it fully open like regular library hours. We're working our way up to that.
Any other suggestions or thing you'd like me to look into in terms of these two policies? Right.
Assuming it would be not realistic to have a policy where people could rent it. If there is an additional cost from our end, especially off hours.
So that is in the building use policy.
Right.
So there is in the building use policy about the use of the space and the need for, custodial staff and so forth, which we basically no longer have. So there's one of the challenges. But it's about what the quote unquote use of the space, the event. So for example, if somebody wanted to was a business owner and wanted to have a Christmas party over there, can't do it. It has to be something that is cultural, art, civically based. That's
the
what
Girl Scouts had a Christmas party there.
Well, sort of, yeah. Like the Girl Scouts actually have met there. They've done signups over there, stuff like that. So because it is kind of a community kind of, activity, that's why it's more open. more recent times have gotten many bridal shower requests, which we could, really fund the library with the bridal showers, just throwing you.
Seriously.
But then you have to
But
put on your
it's
party
not-
planner hat and
no.
go
Oh,
be
yeah,
over there.
yeah, I'm doing that. I'll unlock the door, but that's it.
You're comfortable ordering large cakes,
Yeah.
like wedding size cakes.
Yeah, so it is something that, that we're working on. And one of the things that is just an aside for that is that I have been working with HR in job descriptions and, creating new positions. And one of them is to provide more services to the community is for a passport agent. With the idea being that they would be located over at the Adams Center so that there would at least be 2 staff members working over there.
Do we have legal counsel or legal resources that we can ask these kinds of questions to?
I can ask the interim town administrator if we can talk to legal counsel, but the board itself doesn't have.
Alright. But so there is like an indirect resource, but not a direct one.
Correct.
Our board member attorney retired.
Yes, he did, yeah.
Okay, so then we'll be revisiting this next month, obviously. The next item on the agenda are position updates, which we did sum up with the introduction of Parker.
That is correct. So this Wednesday, our new library tech will begin. Her name is Grace. So she will be filling the 19-hour-week position that was vacant. And then as far as the head of youth services position, it was posted. We have received some applications. I did conduct the first interview today, but it is still a work in progress.
Thank you. The backroom storage project.
Okay.
Ooh.
So
I've heard
the only, it is, well, it's not, it's exactly, well, it's, what it is basically, I met with the facilities manager to discuss this to some degree. They were hoping to get over here last week. Unfortunately, with the weather and the volunteers that they were going to utilize, they are going to be cleaning out the back storage area of unused shelving and furniture that we no longer need. That will clean up the area. It's kind of, doing spring cleaning back there. So it will take up quite a bit of effort to do that. So that will be, when they do that, it will set us up to be able to kind of have more of a staging kind of area so that we can then go through the rest of what's back there to, kind of clean out. I took a look into the flooring company that I had previously reached out to. I am, hopeful that they will reach out to me. I had reached out to them back in April. I had been working with the building inspector on that project. However, he is no longer part of the town. So he was kind of the liaison working with me. So I'm just trying to touch base with them on that. But I just mainly wanted to update about the cleaning aspect of it and the removal of the shelves. Some of the shelving in there was donations from a previous library that got a new building and gave us their leftovers that were not utilized well. But hopefully this will be a step in the right direction.
Sounds it.
And part of that, is there going to be storage space as well?
There will be some storage. It won't obviously it won't be as much, because it is like your dining room table, that if that dining room table is cleared, it will get filled up.
Yeah.
But we just have to be more thoughtful about things and not necessarily things that might be like, that may just need a little TLC, so we'll just hold on to it just in case. It's like, no, it needs to go.
Just never. See.
Yeah, no.
Thank you very much. And then budget update.
Okay, so with the Well, it's actually fiscal 27 budget update. So we have been notified by the town accountant about basically creating a presentation. As you know, I've been kind of working on it anyways, but it is more formal. There was a mention in the communication to department heads that previously there were some forms that had been used that did a narrative about the departments. So normally in the past, since I've been here, it's basically the software is similar to kind of like an Excel spreadsheet. Like, here's your current numbers, here's empty column, fill in what your new numbers are. Only if it's a major increase do you give detail. Well, now it's more than that. It is give that information, give a narrative about the library, list all of your employees, give a brief description of what each of your employees does, what your goals are for the coming year, what your goals and successes were of your previous year, the previous fiscal year, and stuff like that. So it is a more developed, broader kind of activity.
Is this presentation then going to be given to FinCom and the Board of Selectmen?
That is correct. The goal is to
there-
make
Or just one department?
in the entirety, from my
Okay,
understanding.
preferred.
Yes, from my understanding that it is in the entirety. The whole idea is that, so first off, the request about the forms and things like that is actually how the bylaw is written. So I don't know if it's a practice that they just got away from, and now we're actually looking at that again. But the idea is to give transparency and understanding of each department's budgets, especially those of us who are considered like the bigger budgets. Because obviously an office that, the townhouse is going to have a department head and an admin, and then there are shared resources for general expenses. So they don't have what, we have, we're paying the water bill, we're paying the sewer bill, we're, doing, materials purchasing and stuff like that. So it is, giving more information, which I'm completely fine with. And that's what I'm used to in my previous directorship. That's what I did. I did a full on presentation.
I think
Because
it's great that they're having all of the members involved, because I think relying on representatives and then the representatives bringing back the information to the larger board, things get lost in translation. And so this way everyone hears the same information.
absolutely, absolutely. And this is similar to with last fiscal year when we, had the potential cut. And the vote was taken and they kept the cut, but then I did create the graphs and everything and submitted it, and then a revote was taken, and then they restored the money. So it is about educating people, about, what our guidelines are, and, with the MBLC, the state, and for certification.
Because we're also the only department that has those sorts of guidelines that
Absolutely.
they're adhering to.
Absolutely.
That's actually good news, because I'm glad that.
Yeah.
Now you're
Okay.
tapping for a bigger audience.
Yes, the show is bigger.
And the Baker and Taylor update, which I realized for people who aren't in the biz.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to explain that. So for those of you who are not in the biz, Baker Taylor has been a book vendor since the early 1800s. As long as I've worked in libraries, they were the primary vendor for materials. What basically happens is various vendors go out to bid. So for example, one year Baker Taylor might be have the lowest bid for adult hardcovers, and Ingram might have the lowest bid for children's softcover books and what have you, and you just kind of work with with that. So they were recently, an attempt was to recently sell the company, and that did not go through. So they announced that they would be closing. They would be ceasing. So it is the company that we use for automatically yours titles, which for the adult section, which those are titles that, the staff don't manually have to order all the bestseller authors because they're so proficient. They, we work off a list that any book by Emily Curtin, we automatically purchase that title. So that is the vendor that we use for that. We use them for the leasing of bestsellers. We also use them for sustainable shelves, which is when we discard materials and we send them back, we get a credit. So that is also going to be affected. But one real big thing is that they are actually the company that has the software that we do utilize for the ARIS and financial reporting to the state. So the MBLC has been sending out emails about that. So obviously they're looking into other ways to do state reporting next year, but obviously this is so new that it's still, too early to predict anything. It was recommended that we go on to the collect, which is what it's called, and download our data because we won't have access to it after, January.
Right.
So that has already been done, and it will be compiled into one singular kind of spreadsheet, because when you download it, once it's downloaded and you reopen it, it actually opens up to an Excel sheet with, it's just one single string of information. So the goal is to basically copy and paste all the consecutive fiscal years together so that it becomes, one document. But it will, impact us that way.
I could probably help with that. I do like data processing as my job. So.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, score.
Make a note of that. Data processing. So this is, so this was very surprising. So we are having now at this point, all these random kind of book dealers reaching out to get our business. Yeah, to get our business. That evidently Amazon has their own book. Absolutely. So they
You could access that right now.
yeah.
Nothing's functioning at this moment.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where we're at with that. But just know that next year with the ARIS, it will be some other company or,
System.
But
everyone will be in the same boat since.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know if other states, if they use a different product or whether they actually do the type of reporting that we do. So that's probably what they'll do. is they'll just look to see what others are doing.
Thank you for that. So now we're actually going into even more your
Exactly.
information.
All right. So from the director's report, as I mentioned, I had interviews for the library tech position. We have a new person starting. Attended members council meeting when we talked about the new ILS system and the standardization of the network. We actually just had another members council meeting last Thursday in Situate, and they did take a vote, and we are moving to standardizing. And what that means is OCLN historically has been a network that has allowed libraries, even though we're part of a network, to have their own individuality. So a library like us, everything we have checks out for 2 weeks, and there's no 1 week for new books, 1 week for magazines, 3 weeks for whatever. And historically, the challenge has been is that if items from another library come to us and they have different loan periods, while in some networks they would default to the checkout library, they don't. They follow the home library. So for example, if you were requesting 6 data processing books from various libraries, you could end up getting 5 different due dates, because it also takes into consideration whether or not, so where you're checking it out on a Friday, but that particular library that owns it isn't open Friday, so then it goes to the Saturday date, and so there's all the quirkiness. So I have always felt that was not good customer service. So this will require all libraries to have a consistent, loan period for the general materials, new items, library things, special kind of collections, those will still remain separate. And so, as I mentioned, we are 2 weeks. They did vote this, that it will be 3 weeks and with 2 renewals. There is the vote was taken, it was a slaughter of those who voted against it. But there are some libraries that actually have to go to their boards to get that type of approval. So there might be some challenges to this because it basically is network policy versus obviously the authority of any oversight pertaining to the library goes to those who are responsible for the library, which would be the trustees. So something like changing due dates, nearby libraries were adamant that they have to go to their board. They can't just say, yeah, sure, this sounds great. So there may be a challenge, but at this point, it was voted for a 3-week loan period. Obviously, that will impact our circ stats because it would then mean rather than an item going off for 2 weeks, it's now going off for 3 weeks. So we will see a decline with that. That should only be impacting the first year of the as we transition to that. This change is scheduled to occur when we get the new ILS system, which will be sometime in April. And part of that with the new ILS is that they have recommended that we start doing major reading of the collection, because right now with our current system, we can look up a book and see, okay, it's been checked out 15 times. The last time it was used was in April. When we move to the new ILS, all that information will be gone. So all it will have is that this yellow pad of paper, we have a yellow pad of paper. We don't know how many times it's been written on, how many times paper was used in the.
Are we just losing historical data, or are we losing our ability to store that data? So like after we switch over to the new system, do we start building a new history?
We build a new history. So the idea being, so for example, so what we would want to look at is normally with professional standards, looking at materials. So I do the DVD, so I can say, the professional standard is if the DVD hasn't been checked out in a year as a major film, it's just got weeded.
Do they allow for importing of data? Because if I got like records, I could import that data. That's another thing I could do.
This would be a network thing, so I don't know enough about that part of things to be able to answer that. I'm thinking probably not.
I almost want to say it's like a database administrator kind of thing, but it's like, do they have some kind of tool to allow for like uploading historical data? And it would be like you give them a CSV and then can ingest it.
Mhm.
So, and that they either have or they don't. I don't think there's any gray area. Like, oh, they don't have that, they have some other solution. It's probably either that or no. So I don't know if you can ask about that.
I will.
Or if you care about that historical data all that much, because it seems like your primary caring about it is
that would be the case, is we would want that kind of data. Moving forward, we would want, so if there was a way to save it, and carry it over. So I don't know whether or not, if it's just, and that's one of the reasons. So one of the reasons why we are, moving to the new ILS is due to the fact that the current ILS is, antiquated, and there is no longer support and all that good stuff. So whether or not things are compatible, like our online calendar with that other vendor, they went to move it to a new server, and that was an antiquated system, and it crashed and it went out of business. So I don't know if it is compatible to do that, but I will definitely check.
So if you can export our current data, and if they allow you to import data, I will almost certainly be able to do it, regardless of what else it is. And I have actually done that before for sketches.
Okay. All right, I will-
This is quite the meeting.
This is great.
People are offering you their services.
Lively discussions and everything. This is awesome.
We need to bang on more tables.
I think we should have more streaming that. More
No.
No, I always tell my wife, we don't bring that to them.
No.
I'm here to be on camera, darn
My first wife for a reason. Not like that.
So I attended a cybersecurity training webinar. This webinar will be shown to the staff at next week's staff meeting. We are having a staff meeting at next Monday, so we are closing early in order for to have this training. We are going to have sensitivity training, as well as a regular general staff meeting. We also will be, we have 2 new services that we're going to be providing. I actually signed the contracts today. That will be starting on November 1st. And one of them is called, I just totally lost it, Hive Class. So for Hive Class and Play Garden, so Hive Class is a collection of tutorial videos for health and wellness and exercise. And the idea being that these are done by coaches and professionals as well as the average person. The idea was that this is something that somebody with a library card could utilize in their own home, perhaps doing these activities, build up the confidence to then go to more structured, settings to get more of a benefit health-wise. It is something that can be shared with the Council on Aging, Recreation. And another suggestion with them was that if we had any homeless shelters in the area, that if they had a kind of like a institution card or a regular library card with us, that they can show these videos as activities. So they could actually use them as kind of programming.
it. The facility on Bishop's Highway.
Yes, yeah, that was exactly it. And so, so there's all sorts of sports and, there's pickleball and baseball, and within each section, it's like, how do you dribble? How do you, do a jump shot or something like that? I did look at the yoga one, and just so you know that there is a corpse pose. I was very entertained by that.
Months for that.
Yeah. So they're definitely, and it was affordable for both of those. So it was $1,500 for both that and the Play Garden one. So the Play Garden is what they did was they partnered with basically a high-end preschool out of New York. And what it is preschool curriculum and support. So each day is different. Like today you can log in, and today we're going to focus on the letter B, and there'd be video activities. You could download worksheets and stuff like that. So there's a lot of educational support there. That their mission was that, the demand for use of their facilities to have for preschool is so high that they felt that, there's a lot of people that unfortunately either cannot, afford to send their children to preschool, the waiting list to get into preschools and so forth. So they thought if there was a way that they could, reach a broader audience, in offering that educational support. There is another aspect of it, which we did not opt into because it was more money, but it would be to actually have live teachers. So there would be, for example, there could be a story hour at 10 o'clock with Miss Jen, and you would zoom in and Miss Jen would conduct a class from, as she normally would with the, preschool, the story time or what have you. And then, on the camera, the kids' names would be listed on there. So she would call on the children to have that interaction. So they felt that it was good kind of support, to kind of get kids prepped to having another adult, kind of ask questions and, do the educational support and stuff. So we opted not to do that yet. Because as I mentioned, it was more expensive, so we're kind of going in on the, the regular tier. But there are songs and, all sorts, it will be great for homeschooling parents as well, and stuff like that. So they did a bundle deal. It was $1,500 for the two services. So there will be a demonstration of those at the staff meeting as well. Obviously Book and Treat is coming, so there has been a lot of support from different avenues, whether it be from family members to folks at the Council on Aging to the Board of Health. We had various people help decorate the houses that we're using for Book and Treat, which is this Friday evening. But also the health agent was able to get a donation of toothbrushes and floss and other miscellaneous items from CVS. So, it kind of expanded on the, partnership and, what we can do, together. I did reach out to LinkedIn Learning for potential purchase of services. It is another kind of educational video kind of database. It was rebranded as that, but it formerly was lynda.com. But the cost for that would be prohibitive for us to be able to utilize. Let's see. I did submit a grant to the Kingston Cultural Council for adult craft programming for the spring. There was discussions with Steve, the reference librarian, about the space here in the adult area, about a possible redesign. What that is basically looking at is, moving collections, looking at what we have as standalone collections and their usefulness, and whether we need to, continue with those collections or, reallocate them to something else, as well as an ask that I am going to make to the foundation is for study pods. That has been one of the challenging things here, is that, currently the only designated quiet study space is in the art gallery, which is also the tutoring space. So it's the art gallery, the tutoring space, and quiet study. I call it the multi-purpose hallway. So by doing this, we would be able to reuse existing space here for that purpose. I did visit the Plymouth Library because they do have an enclosed study pod. So there's different styles. So basically the three kind of versions are kind of freestanding walls similar to the glass panels of the courtyard. They actually look like that with metal framing and what have you. So those are an option. The actual enclosed units, and the other ones were these individual chairs or booths, depending on how big you got, that basically it was a seat with the table, and the sides, the back and the sides of those go up 59 inches. So that is the option that I want to present to them, because one, it is more affordable. It will be easier to maintain, because obviously with the glass panel idea, for example, even the enclosed capsule, which has, both sides are glass, we don't have a means to maintain those. The cleaning service only cleans movable glass, so they'll clean the glass door, but not the two side windows. So I'm opting to, ask the foundation for those chairs instead. So I'm just going to, tonight, after this meeting, there is a foundation meeting, so I will be pitching that idea, not making a formal ask, but just seeing if they'd be entertaining to that. So there is the big kind of, re-looking at space and, what we actually need. So then looking at the monthly statistics, Obviously, there was a decline from August into September, which is a norm due to, summer reading ending. And so year to date, we are down year to date of 3% over where we, last year's numbers. Which obviously, we have a reduction in programming, due to the vacancies, in various positions and things. So that would be also, an indicator of that. The use of the hoopla statistics. So year to date, we have invested approximately just under $5,000 for over 2,000 circs of various formats. This data that's here will be provided to as part of my presentation to FinCom and Board of Selectmen so that they see what the costs of digital content, is and what it's actually costing us to, offer those services. And are there any questions?
Gentle criticism. Might be nice to label some of these charts in this fiscal report. I think it's a hoopla stats are looks like images and then not really labeled as to what that they're hoopla. If I'm off base here, please let me know.
No, you're not off the Christmas card list.
I'm no longer getting a gift.
You now have to pay out of pocket for people.
Or does.
Any other gentle criticism? Not seeing any, then I'll move on to the staff reports, which were understandably light, considering that we have transition happening in both children's and mean that next month we'll have at least in TACFAC.
Yes.
Any questions about the reports that we did get? Not seeing any Foundation and Friends updates. So I think the only update, they're about to have their meeting for this month after we conclude for the foundation, and I know that they are in the process of starting their elf kit fundraiser that they do around the holidays.
So we'll have more information next month, basically.
Yeah, from them on that, because they'll have started, I think, sales open, so they'll probably have some numbers for us. And they were featured in Kingston Living. I don't know if anyone got an opportunity to see that, but the library and the work of the foundation was featured in Kingston Living. Payment of bills. No bills for us, so no bills.
Not in favor.
Any old business? Just double checking our next date to make sure everyone has the date for the meeting. 17.
Boy. I feel like, sure. Yep, I'm gonna be in Korea. I could zoom in.
Except what time is it in Korea when we're
They're like 18 hours ahead of us.
It's 13 or 14, depending on.
okay.
13.
That's at like breakfast on Tuesday.
It could be a valiant effort to zoom in, but it is an excused absence if you have crossed an ocean or two.
Chalk it up.
Right, so it is the 17th. Just want to make sure that's not there. Any new business? Not seeing any. I would take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn at 7:05 p.m.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.